Virgo 21, a girls' basketball team. This is feminine energy. So we're talking about receptivity. Basketball team is a group. And together, the group is active. It's a sporting event with competition. But it's the group that's competing against another group. Within the group, there is no competition as such, not ideally. It's an example of when you can harmonize with your team so that you can compete with the other team. That's what we're talking about here. And this metaphor suggests the existence of a phenomenon where certain energies are actually very powerful and cannot be assimilated easily by an individual. In order to assimilate the higher energies in life, we really do need to do that in the sense of a group. We need to harmonize ourselves within a group situation so that the group consciousness can be developed, and with that higher power of group consciousness, we can bring down higher spiritual energies. I think this is particularly important in the current time. We all know, I think, of the promise 2,000 years ago that Christ would return. And 2,000 years ago, an individual, we're told, was able to embody Christ consciousness. Jesus was at that level. Today, so teachings suggest, we're not looking for Christ consciousness to be embodied by an individual. We're looking for a group consciousness to unfold, to develop, to become capable, to hold that level of consciousness, to draw down the Christ energy. The Christ energy is an archetype, not a person. Christ is an archetype, not a person. And that archetype is shown to us in the behavior of the individual historically and mythologically, metaphorically, whatever you like to see it as, the story of Jesus. So the archetype here of Christ consciousness is to do with forgiveness and the ability to knock so that doors will be open and seek so that things can be found and turning the other cheek if somebody has a go at you. And that's the archetype of Christ consciousness. And it's very high. It's as high as you can get, really. Now, that's just one example, perhaps the highest example, of the idea that an archetypal energy cannot be embodied by one person unless it's of historical importance. Usually, we won't be able to do that alone. So we need to form groups. And we need to form groups through the operation of two principles. In the first principle, we need to be harmonious with the other members of the group. We need to find a group with whom we can find empathy and rapport, and just we like them, or at least we respect them enough so that we can actually play together. We can align ourselves with the group endeavor. And this is the second point, that the group itself must have a very specific intention. If that is not on offer, then you will not get the harmony. When you're playing in a basketball team or any other sports team, there's one purpose in any moment. The purpose is to take this ball and put it in that net. Everyone on your team is trying to do exactly that. And even though they might be doing something which seems to be different from that, it's so that later they can do that. When we're in a sports team, we know what we're going to do. Now, is that true of any other group that you're a part of? Are you a part of any group at all where the purpose is that clearly defined? I doubt it. Most endeavors, even let's say a company, you work for a group, a company, and that company has a purpose. What is that purpose? They will declare their purpose in terms of service. We would like to develop pharmaceuticals to heal the sick. And yet every single part of the behavior of Big Pharma suggests the opposite, suggests that they're actually motivated towards making more and more money, more and more power. So you see there's a difference here between what they say they're doing and what they're actually doing, and therefore within the group there cannot be ideal harmony. You cannot claim something and behave differently from it and expect there to be harmony. It's nonsense. Other groups, social groups, you go out for a good time, and you will notice that some people in the group want to listen, some want to talk, some want to entertain, some want to tell jokes, some want to discuss philosophy or religion. Everyone there has got a different agenda. And if you said, well, what is our group agenda, you would not be able to come up with a single purpose. So, to summarize, two aspects of a group: single-pointed focus as the group, in the group as a whole, and harmony within the group. That can achieve anything then. Now, sadly, this idea has been lost when we consider parenting. The idea that a very young couple who fancy each other sexually and have a good time on a Friday night should be able to bring a child into the world and raise that child themselves alone in a box and not really participate in the village community. That idea is now commonplace. We assume that that's how things happen. It was not always so, and it actually doesn't work. It's not working very well. Parenting is probably the single cause of most of what's wrong in the world today, bad parenting. We're all brought up to believe in things which are false because the parents are just children themselves when they try and educate their own children. In a tribal society, the child would be raised by the village, and the child would benefit hugely from that. They would not depend upon their parents' emotional process for their sense of security. They would not depend upon one point of view based in ignorance for their worldview. They would take examples of opinions and notice behaviors from the village, and they would make up their own minds about how they are with that, who they are within that. And I mean, at the very least today, we could have the grandparents doing the job rather than the village. But the idea that parents should be looking after their own children, it's just so limiting. And how can we possibly bring down a group consciousness when there's only two people compared to a village? A village is a unit of survival and production and creative expression. That's the unit that we need. A family of a young man and a young woman, 2 or 3 kids and not much else, that doesn't work. That's not big enough. That does not hold the water. The group consciousness cannot be developed unless every single member of the group feels totally free to express who they are and how they are. That doesn't occur in a family where there's an authority structure. We have to know that when we're in the basketball team, that if we feel like running up the wing with the ball, then we can do that. If we feel like passing it to somebody else, we can do that. Whatever we feel like doing, we have to trust that that's what the group, that's what the team needs. And if we can't trust that, then we can't actually be part of the team, not really. We're a passenger. So, find a group where you feel empathy. Focus its attention. Make sure you know what the group's intended goal is very clearly. And then express yourself fully. That's the formula indicated by this degree.